Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
Now, guys like Musk, Jobs, Gates, Bezos, Buffett. Bezos is a half-assed Cuban, they tell me. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Ford, the first Ford, Rockefeller, all, to the extent that they're alive, are miserable cocksuckers. Miserable. But you look up to what they've accomplished, as you rightfully should. The first guy I sold when I was in graduate school, I ran a big sales program, was William Lundigan, the actor. I sold him. I made him cry. I sold him a sales job that he had to buy a uniform, a suit, a blazer and slacks, and an American tie. Global warming. Not much difference between 1898 and 1917, is there? Or 2017, excuse me. Not much difference. Occasionally, a kid picks a bus driver that fights back. Occasionally. Some say the bus driver overdid it, but kicked the fuck out of the kid. But that's not the norm now. The norm now, the bus driver gets beat up, stays beat up. Four or 500 years ago, you would have probably all been put to death by now. Because you didn't produce anything for the king or the lord or whatever. In the history of business, who did? Of course, that's me, and me. But it can be you. I'm not even in the top 1,000 of my devotees of wealth now. Not even in the top 1,000. And I live like this. Hope's not an option. It's not a strategy. You've operated on a lack of fear. Elon Musk has been shrinking rent payments. I told you about that. And this is my dad. And that's you. And this is the night my dad decided to retire. So this is how I grew up. And when the newspapers interviewed him, and he was accused of assassinating this guy that had kidnapped that woman in the valley, in the San Fernando Valley. This was after he had handled the Sirhan case when he came back out of retirement. And the other policeman and whoever was there, he said, well, what happened? Whatever Manny said happened. So the 55 witnesses all said the same thing. That's how it was done in the good old days. Now there would have been 4,000 iPhones showing that he assassinated him with a bullet between his fucking eyes. Now, whether he assassinated him or not is pure conjecture, because he was never prosecuted. But that was my role model. I can't be any different. Now, this is, take a picture of this. You can take a picture of this. This is Anelli's, my routine. I'm going to read out. You can take a picture of it. My acquisition program is in full swing. I see minimum of 25 to 35 new acquisition targets per week, in person from Mondays to Sundays, failing which my PAs are fired. The typical life cycle of a PA is 4 to 6 months. As a result, my 7 days weekly diary have 5 key entries. Meeting and presenting to financial institutions, bankers, PE funds, family offices, and insurance companies. 2, meeting sellers. I perform in-person visits, than online meetings. Online meetings are like telephone sex. You will never make a baby. 3, meeting transaction advisors, legal or accountants for their services and additional acquisition references. 4, meeting business brokers. And 5, meeting any credible individual that can refer me to any of the above. The key is between 25 and 35 acquisition candidates a week, minimum. For those of you that can add and subtract, depending on whether you work a 5-day week or a 7-day week, that's between 5 and 7 a day. That's how you became a billionaire in 40 months. Nobody has done that except one, a kid from Raleigh, black kid. You do that, even if you're a tongue-tied mongoloid idiot like most of you are in this room, you'll make so much money that you'll light your cigars with $1,000 bills. But you're not going to do it. 5 to 7 a day is a formidable number. So I've been asked by a Dutchman recently, well, if I do half of that, will I make half as much money as Anelli? And then I've been asked by a German, can I do this part-time? Then I got asked by a Swiss, what do you consider part-time? Does everybody understand that? When my dad retired from the LAPD after 28 years, he got a check for $56,000 or $59,000. Because in those days, you could accumulate your statutory days off and get paid for them when you retired. They don't do that anymore. He had 715 days statutory leave he never took in 28 years. 715. If you do the maths, as they say here, and you divide 735 by 28 years, he never took a day off. From 1971 to 1997, I didn't take a day off, including my wedding. I never saw my dad take a day off. I remember he once took me deep sea fishing. The boat left at 3 o'clock in the morning out of San Pedro, and it was back by 11, and then he went to work. He did that twice. During his bonding time, they tried to bond. So all I don't know any different. I don't know any different. Yet when one of the largest cases in the history of the United States, the assassination of Robert Kennedy, came up, they picked him to handle it for the United States government, allegedly, to cover it up, as the story goes now. Cover it up. Now, Joe Louis, a famous fighter, I met Joe Louis once in front of Caesar's Palace. He was selling his signature for $5. Famous Joe Louis. Steve Wynn, who was the manager of Caesar's Palace at the time, before he started Wynn, which he's now been thrown out of, gave him a job because his managers, etc., had all stolen his money, and he owed $6.8 million in taxes. Jesse Owens also died broke, the great sprinter during the Nazi Olympics, and he was a big star during the World War II, and did all kinds of fantastic things, won all kinds of fantastic medals, and he died broke because people stealing his money. That's less prominent now, where they steal rich athletes' money, but never underestimate how wrong you can be. This is the hospital that recently sold for $1 in Hawaii to one of you. Vietnamese doctor, as I recall now, who bought a hospital like that for $1. At the last hardcore, the guy that sat in the seat where the doc is sitting had somebody pay him 50,000 euros to take his business off his hand. Towards the end of the seminar, I'm going to show you how you can have them pay you to take their business off their hands. But we had one last hardcore. Paid 50,000 euros. Now take a picture of this too. Because even though we go through it and it's in the steps, after the LOIs are signed, subject to due diligence and finance, then a board meeting for approval. There you form the company, give out the shares, then you guys go back with board approval to negotiate the final deal and knock the price down. That's how the system's supposed to work. But you're not going to do that. And you heard the pig fucker say, you name the price, I'll name the terms. The business may be worth $9 million, but I'm going to give you $12 million over the next, I'm exaggerating now, 9 million years. I've yet to find anybody that's been a seller that has used discounted cash flow. I've been doing this 53 years. No discounted cash flow. And that's all they teach in the schools. Maybe in the next 53 years, somebody will show me one. What they teach in the B schools is so outdated and so parochial, it predates Andrew Carnegie from 1860 to 1910. It predates. That there's still one or two of you who've gone to good schools. You wasted your fucking money. I asked you to look at billions in succession. Comments from anybody about billions? Yes, sir.
Shows you how people really fucking operate. And I mean, you go Axelrod, you have the head attorney, and they just fucking go at each other's throats. And I mean, it's war. And
just like you, right? Go ahead. Oh.
What I was gonna say is, I have no one in my life to show me that that's what reality is.
You had no one.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Of course, that's why I'm here.
Oh, well, I understand that. I appreciate that. But guys, see, for some of you, it still hasn't. Do they still say the penny hasn't dropped, or the shoe hasn't dropped, or they don't say that anymore? Well, it hasn't clicked. You're not capable of doing this. Based on today, you're just not. Are you doing a sign to me? Is that like hello or? No, I was gonna say. Oh, go ahead. Because a lot of these things I don't understand some of this shit. Go ahead. But he's closer to my age, so I should be able to converse with him. Go ahead.
What surprised me, especially about billions, was that a lot of it had nothing to do with business, but it was a lot of personal vendettas. Mm-hmm. Ego, had nothing to do with...
Amen. And now in the woke political correct, they say that it shouldn't exist anymore, more or less. Now, if you're in the south or the southeastern part of the United States, there are still people that remember me. And I hurt most of them. Some physically. If you're in the oil and gas and you're in Houston, you can't do 5 deals without bumping into somebody that I crushed like a fucking ant. New York City, they fall into the categories of they're either dead, in prison, or they have dementia. Because I was the young guy of the group. I was 15, 20, 25 years younger than everybody else. Well, I'm 79 in a week, in a couple of days. So they'd be 100-ish if they're still around, and most of them are gone. But when you find somebody that's a senior partner in one of the big law firms in Houston, is that Danny Peña? Now, they used to call him Mexican wetback. Mexican. And of course, you won't say that, that must be him. No, it must be somebody else, because you're embarrassed. And then if you had asked him, I spent 3 more years to become partner because of him. He ripped me to shreds in front of the investment committee of Texas Commerce Bank at that time. And one of my senior partners of the law firm was on that investment committee. It took me 3 years until he retired for me to gain stature enough to become a partner. Because when I was young, I couldn't stand, I wouldn't even allow the questions you've asked. I'd cut you short, throw you out. Because I can't stand stupidity. But most of those guys are dead. But billions, and what about succession? And I happen to know Brian Cox, so full disclosure, okay, I know the guy. He's this tall. Maybe not, maybe that tall. They had to have a special casting for succession. There's only one tall, the doofus kid, the moron, the son or the nephew or the grandson of his brother is the only tall guy. And he's not tall. But compared to 4'8", he looks tall. Anything about succession? And having just redone all of our estate planning and foundation and all this shit, which costs a ton of money. But I didn't, anyway, it doesn't matter. Any comments or questions about it? Yes, sir.
So he was ruthless with his board. After a meeting, he can fire everyone straight away. Yeah, so he didn't care.
So can you. Yeah. The reason why Josh Kim, of course, Josh Kim is retired now, but the reason why Josh Kim has 87% when he exited, because he hired 23 directors that he got rid of. 23. 3 chairmen, 3 CEOs, 3 CFOs, 23, and he bought them out because it was shit money, the model, and so he bought them out at between 5 and 35 cents on the dollar. But see, you don't want to do that fight. You see, you want, so, you might buy them out at coupon value, which means at, fair market value. But Josh, I don't know if it's because he's half Korean. I don't know if it's because he's, his dad, military, United States Military Academy, graduate, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. But the little guy had balls, even though he had no pubic hair, which they teased him about. Now, as he flies over with his Gulfstream, I don't know if he's really done this, but rumor says that he empties his urinals on his big plane over some of the big cities that people weren't nice to him. I don't know if that's true. Sounds like something I would do. I don't know. And he emailed me after he got his first plane. Mr. Peña, I knew you wouldn't lie to me, but sperm does float at 60,000 feet. I knew that. You're not going to experience that. I want you to experience it. If you're single and you're not cheating on your wife, all these caveats. I don't even really, if you are cheating on your wife. But anyway, for legal purposes, metaphorically, I would never want a married man to cheat on his wife. Cross my heart, but sperm does float. You should be so fucking lucky. But these things, the billion guys and the succession guys, are for real. And how many deals, depending on how many successions you watch, even his brother hated him. Any comments or questions about billions of succession? Okay.